Namaskar. Today I am going to discuss how to write a good research paper for a good journal. So, here we start with what is research paper. So, I am focusing today on writing a research article or original research paper. What is research paper? First we understand the concept. So, whenever we are solving any research problem or in answering any research question using some methodology and finding any result, and that we are going to report to a journal or conference, that is research paper. So, here one thing is important, that you are going to solve any research problem of your area or answering some research questions. So, let us start with the title. In the research paper format, first we are having the title part. So, that is crux of your study, that is reflecting what you have done in your research paper. So, it should be very interesting and should use very limited words. 12 words are suggested by many experts. So, you try to use these number of words to write your title, and it should be interesting one, and that is also reflecting your work. And then comes introduction part. Although after title part in research paper we are writing the abstract, that I will be mentioning in detail in one other video. So, here I am going to start with the introduction. What we are writing in the introduction part. So, it starts with the broader one and then we are getting narrower. So, what we are trying to say here? We are telling the world that what has already been done on this particular topic in that particular area and what has not been done till date. So, that is research gap, that we are going to conduct this study, and why it is important to fill that research gap, that also we are mentioning there. So, here we are writing the purpose of that particular study and the relevance of it, and then we are writing our research question. And if the research journal formats allows you to write the research objective, here only we are writing the objective also. Otherwise, only mentioning the research questions that we are going to answer through this study. So, this is introduction part, and then comes literature review part. In many journals, IMRD model is being followed to write the research papers. So, that is introduction, method, result and discussion part. So, when we are reporting these four things, mostly they are inviting in 3000 or 3500 words itself, or 4000 maximum. But when we are writing 6000 plus words article or more than that, we are writing the literature part section. Mostly this is happening. So, this one is very important section, and that I have also made one video regarding literature review that you can watch. I will share the link of that video, why it is so important. So, in this section what we are doing? We are reviewing all the important and recent literature in our area to know that what are the work have already been done and what has not been done. So, here we are finding gaps and we are critically analyzing that gap, and on the basis of that gap, if you want to test any hypothesis, that we are mentioning here. So tentatively we are providing the result on the basis of that gap, that what we are going to find through this study. So if you are having any hypothesis to test, mention that. If you are not having any, just find the gap and move forward. And after this comes the methodology part. To find the relationship between the or among the variables, or to answer the research question, we are going to conduct our study in a very systematic manner. So we are deciding that what approach I have to take, what design I have to consider, and what research methods accordingly we are planning. So whether we are going to conduct our study using qualitative approach, that we are mentioning, and also mentioning the reason why so. If it is quantitative one, why we are conducting quantitative one. Based on the previous literature we are mentioning here and justifying here why we needed this. If there was any methodological gap in the previous study, that also we are mentioning here. If previous researchers had suggested that this should be understood using a qualitative approach or quantitative, and so we are applying here, so that we are mentioning and justifying here in this section. And then comes the research design. Accordingly we are taking the research design and its justification as well, whether it is descriptive one or exploratory one or experimental one, and why we needed to do so, with the reason we are writing it. And then comes research method part. What we are doing, we are mentioning here why we are taking certain or so and so population, and why we are using so and so sampling method, why purposive sampling method has been used, that we have to justify here. Suppose the list of population is not available, and in that case I have to use purposive sampling method, so that we have to mention here. And then how we are going to collect the data, what research tool, data collection tool I am going to use. Is it questionnaire? Is it interview? Is it observation? Is it ethnography? What it is and why it is, that we are mentioning. And then comes how we are going to analyze the data, what the data we have collected, how we are going to analyze it, which statistical tool we are going to use to analyze that data. Is this any software, or is this any particular test that we are going to apply to find the relationship between the hypothesis? So that also we are mentioning in this part. And then comes the result part. What we are doing in the result section, we are answering the research question through the data. Here we are reporting all the data, that relevant data that we have collected. We are not reporting all the data what we have collected. We are getting so much data while conducting any study. Many times we are getting more data than what we need. So in that case what we have to do, we have to put that data in that section as per the research question requirement. And one by one, if you are answering, you have planned to answer 3 questions, so one by one you have to put that data. And here we are also putting some graphics or figures or tables to make it more visible to the readers. It is easier to understand when we are putting some figures and bar charts and tables. So must use that kind of figure and data whatever your study is allowing. And then comes discussion part. What we are doing in this is the most important part. So what we are doing in this discussion part? Here we are discussing our all results one by one in a sequence. The research question first, accordingly the result we are taking, and then we are analyzing that result and how important that result is and how it is going to make any difference in that particular field, and whether that result is different or similar from the previous one, how different and how similar and why it is so, that also we are discussing here in detail. And so we are going to write the importance of our study, why it became so important, why this result and study has become so important, and that on the basis of result we are doing. And here we are also telling the reader that how your work is unique and different from others and how it is filling the gap of the research. So this way we are trying to discuss each and everything in the discussion part. We are never using any new term in this discussion part. Whatever we have to introduce, that we are doing in the introduction part itself. So never use any new term or definition here to analyze your result. Don't do that. That is not acceptable. And then comes the conclusion part. That is the total story of your work we are presenting briefly. So this is the conclusion part, is the crux of your study. We are mentioning each and everything in very brief that have been found in our study, and how it has advanced the field, that also we are mentioning. The advances that have been found, that should be mentioned here and must be mentioned here. So do that. And if you are having any separate section in that journal for whatever you are writing, write the limitation and suggestions, and if you are not having separately, must write it briefly in the conclusion part itself, but must mention it that what was your limitation. So this way we are writing, and then reference part is there. So while writing all this research paper, you have to cite the work of previous researchers. Wherever you are going to use the concept or result or their theoretical framework, how they have used everything what you are mentioning based on the previous researcher, that is necessary to cite in your work. That is very necessary part of your research paper. Citation should be done properly, and most of the citations are being done in the introduction part and then discussion part. And second one is literature review part. Here you are mentioning all the previous researcher, and then we are using in the discussion part. Result part has no citation at all. So that you have to write it here properly, and whatever the style, APA style, IEEE style, whatever the style that journal is following for the references, that you must use. So this is the way we are writing any paper. And some more precautions that you have to take: must check the plagiarism. In good papers, more than 10 is not allowed. Try to keep it less, 6 or 7. More than 10 is not allowed at all. So use 1 or 2 software before sending it to the good journal, that there is no plagiarism. And if you are having problem with English and grammar, if you are not so apt to write that paper in English, so you can take editor's service as well. So that will make your paper grammatical mistake free, and there will not be any problem related to the language. Poor language paper they are not accepting at all. And choose a perfect journal, check with their scope whether it is matching with your scope, study scope, and also check the methodology, which kind of methodologies paper they are preferring in their journal. So this is about research paper writing, follow these tips and information, then you will be able to make one good paper. Send it to good journal as you have already decided which journal, so send it to them and your paper will be accepted. So this is all for today. If you are liking this channel, subscribe it, press the bell button and stay tuned with me. See you in the next video. Bye bye. Take care. Thank you.